Parliamentarian of the Year award at the Hollywood Weekly magazine. And Reno Omokri is also pastor of Mind of Christ Christian Center. He's also known for using social media to project the gospel and writes articles for major newspapers. Great to have you, Reno Omokri.
Thank you, Aghogho. Thank you.
Excellent. And I'm sure that anyone who's going to join the conversation, you can go on Facebook. We're live now. This conversation is live also on in Lagos, where you can listen 99.3 Nigeria info for this great, all-important interview on Pinpoint. And Reno, this is usually a very frank, blunt interview session we have on Pinpoint. And I'm sure that you'll give us frank and blunt answers. Especially when
Definitely.
it matters. First and foremost, I know one question people have asked is for many years, people could not put a face to the name Reno Omokri while you were with former President Goodluck Jonathan. Now you're more visible. But people ask the question, are you an exile? Why is it that we don't see you often in the country?
Well, I lived in the United States for decades, and I first became resident in the United States at the age of 9 in 1983. And I was vice president of a political consulting firm in the US. And the Jonathan campaign was a client of mine in 2010. And I was invited from the US to Nigeria to be his spokesperson. And so I didn't live in Nigeria. And naturally, when the job was over, I went back to my home and my family and my business in California. So I'm not in exile. I've been resident in the US since age 9. I'm also resident in the UK. So I'm not on exile.
Okay, great to know that because it's something that has popped up over and over again. Let's talk like to say deal with the elephant in the room, which has been the coronavirus and what has been happening. You're not in the country, so you can sort of compare notes with what is happening in the United Kingdom. I believe you are in, and with what is going on in Nigeria. In your assessment, having been in the government circle, how would you describe the Nigerian response to the coronavirus pandemic?
It's been very disappointing. General Muhammadu Buhari is completely inept, and it's just a pity that Nigeria has started with such an incompetent administration at a time like this. You will recall that during our time, we had the wild Ebola virus, and we were the first nation in the whole world, bar none, to eradicate that virus. And how did we do it? We did it with good leadership. We had people right at the airport. We had a patriotic woman at Dadago. We had a partnership with the federal government and the Lagos and River State governments. But what we've seen in Nigeria under General Muhammadu Buhari is just a dereliction of duties. And so you've seen that, if you notice, there's been a rise in strong governors because their nature abhors a vacuum. General Muhammadu Buhari should have closed the borders in February. I said so. Atiku Abubakar said so. I don't know if your audience will remember. In February, Atiku released a statement, close the borders. But this man, because of his selfish reason, we later found out that it was because his daughter and his chief of staff, Abba Kyari, were abroad, and he put the health of 200 million Nigerians at risk by refusing to close the border. If Nigeria had closed the border in February, as we requested, as we advised, we wouldn't be having this large-scale coronavirus. Now, don't believe anybody that tells you that there are 2,000 cases or 4,000 cases. That's absolute bullcom. Nigeria has so much coronavirus, but we don't know how many that we have. You'll see that when they do the count with the NCDC, right. They say Lagos has the most coronavirus. But Lagos doesn't have the most coronavirus. Lagos has the most coronavirus testing. So because Lagos has scaled up in testing, it seems like there's a lot. I'll give you an example. A former member of the House of Representatives wrote a letter to General Muhammadu Buhari saying that in Azare, in Bauchi State alone, within 1 week, 190 prominent people had died. Now, I'm not talking about Almajiris or, the lower class, the Talakawa. I'm talking about prominent people. Right. How many northern traditional rulers have died? As I'm speaking to you right now, 7. So there is right now an epidemic. It's the elephant in the room. General Muhammadu Buhari is in hiding in Aso Rock. He's not showing his face.
Let me ask you something here, Reno, because when you think about if you follow the presidential task force briefing that's been happening regularly, they're just learning the curve, and so many of the things you hear happening in Abuja And in Lagos or in Abeokuta and any of the major state capitals, the state governors trying to find a way through. So you're right when you say there doesn't appear to be everyone on the same page in understanding how to deal with the pandemic. And they've admitted, saying that we are going to hand over to the governors to handle this thing in the best way they can. In your perception, because I know that it's difficult to say this is your response based on the PDP or on the APC or on a nationalistic point of view in saying that what certain governors are doing isn't exactly the right, whether it's APC or PDP. What would you say?
Well, you can't blame the governors. This is an emergency. When you have an emergency, you see, as a human being, you have two natural instincts. They call it fight or flight.
Right.
It's just two natural instincts. If you studied the works of Sigmund Freud,
Right.
you see that you have the fight or flight instinct. So when you have a dereliction of duty at the federal level, then you've seen that everybody is left to their own devices. And these people, they don't have the resources. For instance, no governor has a police. They don't have the resources to handle this issue. And so you see that they're acting in the best way possible. You can't blame the governors. You talked about the presidential task force. In America, are you seeing governors in charge of the coronavirus issue? No, you're seeing President Trump out there, physically out there, going from state to state, giving briefings regularly at the White House. President Trump is out there. Where is General Muhammadu Buhari? He's hiding in the presidential villa.
Now that you've brought this up, because a couple of weeks ago we had the presidential spokesperson, Femi Adesina, just exactly via Skype. I remember a colleague of mine doing that interview, and he said, look, we've had the president come out to give at least 3 national broadcasts on this issue. We've got the task force going over there. In your perception, I know the different styles of leadership and what they would consider former President Jonathan having his own style in how he did address people, whether it was through the media chat or now and again when he had those informal interviews. But what do you think? You think the President Buhari has spoken enough with the broadcast he's had to suffice in saying this is my approach in dealing with the information out to the people? What are your thoughts?
No, look, listen. There should be a communication between the leader and the led. A communication. So you and I, we're having a communication. You're asking me questions and I'm responding. So there's a communication. General Muhammadu Buhari has not communicated with Nigerians. There's been a monologue where he's on the mountain and then talking to the people. And mind you, the broadcast that he's had, it's not been 3, it's been 2. And those broadcasts were recorded. They were recorded. I was the first person to expose that they were recorded because, I know how the villa works. I got spies there. I've got people who feed me information. And then when I leaked that information, Adesina was forced to verify it. Now, what you see there is that you're having a monologue. The man is, a statement is written and given to him. He doesn't even know the statement because you see that he had difficulty pronouncing the word COVID-19. He called it COVID-19. So basically the man is just like a puppet that is being fed with information to give to the people. And I'll also tell you, it was quite unfortunate that Femi Adesina said Nigerians can't order Muhammadu Buhari around. If that was the case, then Muhammadu Buhari should not have contested to be president. He should have sat down with his 150 cows that don't increase in number in Katsina. If you say you were going to be president, then this is a job that requires you. Nigerians don't work for you. You work for us. You are the first citizen. You are an employee. We did not employ a king, a monarch. Under this man, this nation is falling apart. We have become the world headquarters for extreme poverty. Now, if you recall, 2 days ago, the finance minister said that we're having another recession. Right. Now, in the last 35 years, Nigeria has had 2 recessions, right, and both times have occurred under General Muhammadu Buhari. Mm-hmm. So you begin to see that this man, basically, he has...
Yeah, but Reno, you have to admit that this is contagion. What you're having in Nigeria is similarly what you're having in the Western world, because the entire production chain globally has shut down. So would it be fair to say that he's been unfortunate in having these things play out and then it's affected our economy adversely and blame it strictly on him?
Well, no, listen. Nigeria became the world headquarters for extreme poverty 3 years ago. Nigeria became the world headquarters for out-of-school children 2.5 years ago. So these things, I mean, the first recession happened 6 months into his tenure.
Right.
So this was, I mean, all these were long before coronavirus. Now, I'll tell you what, the United States, they're having a situation whereby they have strategic reserves. So all the oil that they cannot sell goes into reserves.
Right.
Nigeria didn't prepare. I mean, this administration did not prepare for any of that at all. So there is the coronavirus, but there's also the ineptitude. The ineptitude is it's just like what they tell you about coronavirus. Something like 93% of the people who have coronavirus will not even know that they have coronavirus. But it is those with underlying issues that will know that. I mean, that may die. Now, let's look at the economy. Nigeria's economy has underlying issues because we have an inept, incompetent administration. And that's why we're having this. I'll give you a very good example. Ghana is a country with their population is 8 times less than ours. The population of Ghana is about 22.3 million. Right. Yet Ghana, at the start of this crisis, Ghana budgeted $100 million to address the crisis. And mind you, President Nana Akufo-Addo addressed the Ghanaian people, right, took questions. He said that for 3 months, the government was going to pay their electricity and water bills. Right. Now, Nigeria is a country with 200 million people. That means we have 8 times the population of Ghana. And what was the budget Muhammadu Buhari announced when he gave his first broadcast? 15 billion naira, which is 1/4 of what Ghana gave. So, that's absolutely right. Ridiculous.
You have a problem with how money has been used to solve this problem. But in case you just joined the conversation on 99.3 Nigeria Info, and also if you're watching live on Facebook, we're speaking with Reno Omokri. Reno Omokri, former spokesperson for former spokesperson for former President Goodluck Jonathan. And on Pinpoint, we're having frank and blunt conversation. Remember, at some point, I will open the phone lines, and I'll also get on Facebook and on Twitter to get those comments out when the time comes.
Aghogho, can I correct you?
Go ahead.
Aghogho, I need to correct you. Former spokesperson to then President Jonathan. I'm not his spokesperson now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sorry about that. So former spokesperson. So tell me something, Reno. I know that they say something. Keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. I know you have religious background also too in the post you put out, even in the tweet for this program. I know you included certain names saying that they don't listen to this broadcast, but I assure you they probably are listening to what you have to say. But tell me, on the one hand, you have lambasted the federal government in the way it's carried out the entire process in dealing with the coronavirus and the pandemic and the lockdown, saying it's been shambolic. But you also have to deal with the state governors who have also had their own blame game in what is going on here. I'll bring in 2 instances here. I've heard you criticize Nasser El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, on how he's gone ahead with some of the things going on in his state. But I haven't heard you say anything about the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, which interestingly is how you went and then you hit on the head on social media, Obieze Kwesili. What exactly is going on? Do you have different rules in how you criticize certain people or how you praise certain people?
Oh, no, absolutely. That's not true. I've never criticized Malam Nasir El-Rufai on his response to the coronavirus issue. That's not true. I mean, you can go or look at my audio, look at my social media posts. What I criticize Nasir El-Rufai on is the fact that he is an ethnic bigot. And I said a month ago, his son came out and called Igbo women. I'm not going to use the word that he used, but he called them a word for, so he called them for a word for a commercial, anyway, I don't want to use that word. Right. And then people were attacking the son, and then the mother of the boy came up to justify her son's behavior and said, all is fair in love and war. And so when Nigerians were attacking both the mother and the son, I said that this attitude of tribalism and ethnic bigotry was learnt at home. And I said that the father, Nasir El-Rufai, who, because you should remember, Nasir El-Rufai and I were once very, very close, had sent me a private email, which I still have today, and which that the email is with my lawyers, in which he had referred to southern Nigerian women as, I don't want to use the word, but WHORES. He had referred to them as whores. And so I said, it's the boy learned that behavior from his father. So that's what I said. Now, I've never criticized Nasser El-Rufai on the coronavirus issue. That's inaccurate. But now that you mention it, I'll say this: Nasser El-Rufai has threatened doctors in his state with being fired because I think he wanted to reduce their salaries by 25% or something like that.
Right.
Listen, all over the world right now, governments are increasing the salaries, the working conditions, and entitlements of doctors because they are the soldiers right now that we need on the front line. It doesn't make sense in this type of environment where Nigeria has not nearly enough doctors for you to begin to reduce the salaries of doctors and then to threaten them with being sacked if they don't accept the situation. That's what Nasir Rufai is doing in Kaduna State. Now, this is the first time I'm going to be talking about that. That's almost a madness. It's almost madness. As for Nyesom Wike, I think what he did was a bit high-handed. Not a bit high-handed. It was rather high-handed. There are some things that he could have done. He could have seized that hotel. I mean, he could have other punitive measures. Find the owner of the hotel. Actually, gotten the police to arrest him and then put him in detention if the laws allow it. But to say that I attacked Nasir El-Rufai and I didn't attack Nyesom Wike is not accurate.
Okay. All right. So at least we can clear the air on exactly what your thoughts are. But back to the question of enemies and friends. When we go on social media, oftentimes, I know that when we look at what you've done, especially with former President Goodluck Jonathan in the age of the social media and the way the campaigns happened, going up to the 2015 election, all that happened during that period. There are people who say that the intensity on social media, the political landscape, could trace it back to what you did with Goodluck Jonathan. So on the one hand, there are people who say excellent work for what was done there, and on the other hand, there are people who say that you somehow created the atmosphere of hate and bile as a forerunner towards the sort of inclement climate we do see on social media. You think it's a fair assessment of what you did then and what is going on now in terms of this back and forth between political parties, say APC and PDP?
Oh, actually, you're wrong there. People don't have that opinion. I mean, I think maybe you have gotten the facts mixed up. Nigerians right now are blaming the current toxic environment on social media on the APC. So what they're saying is that the way the APC used propaganda and lies in the run-up to 2015 is what is coming back to haunt them. And Galatians 6, 7, and 8 is very clear. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he has sown. The issue people had with me when I was spokesman for President Jonathan was that I was too gentle. I was too pacifist. A lot of people wrote letters to my boss complaining that I allowed my religious views color me and I was too gentle with the APC. Very, very, I mean, absolutely nobody is blaming me for the toxic environment. But you see, now let's go back and talk about the toxic environment. You see, when I criticize Muhammadu Buhari, I'm not criticizing Muhammadu Buhari because I don't like Muhammadu Buhari. It's silly for anybody to talk about that. I'm criticizing Muhammadu Buhari because this is the worst leader in Nigeria's history. Look at the nepotism and the tribalism around him. As I speak to you right now, the head of the executive is a northern Muslim male, Muhammadu Buhari. The head of the judiciary is a northern Muslim male, Justice Tanko. The head of the legislature, Ahmed Lawan, is a northern Muslim male. It's never happened in the history of Nigeria for the three arms of government to be headed by northern Muslim males. Now, let's even go beyond that. Look at the army. The head of the army, northern Muslim male. The head of the Air Force, northern Muslim male. The head of the police, northern Muslim male. The head of the DMI, northern Muslim male. The head of the EFCC, northern Muslim male.
Reno, yeah, I know we can.
Can I conclude?
Yeah.
Let me conclude. Let me conclude. The NSA, the NPS, the NIS. So now the question you should ask is: Nigeria a Muslim Brotherhood? This is against the Federal Character Act, and so it is this nepotism, this where you're putting people in places of authority, not because of their competence or their merit, but because of where they come from, that has made Nigeria so weakened that we cannot handle the coronavirus issue right now.
So Reno, you can go on and cherry pick on all of these different positions, but I can tell you that if I go and spread on a broader base sheet, you probably will see it's fairer than the way it is when we do cherry pick. So that's the point I'm making in people.
No, that's not true. Yeah. No, that is not true. That's not. I mean, I deal with facts. As you know, I'm a #1 best-selling author. I'm not a best-selling author. I'm a #1 best-selling author. The reason why is because my book, Fact versus Fiction, was filled with facts. No, when you, I'm not cherry picking. I'm actually I'm going through the national rule where you have the protocol, the order of protocol, number one, number two, number three, number four.
Right.
Now, if you look, these people, General Muhammadu Buhari has professional disinformers who are probably disinformed someone like you. When they bring in irrelevant offices, when they bring in board appointments, irrelevant offices, yes, it's going to look at as if like there is some semblance of equality, but that's not true. If you look at the offices that really count, how come no administration in the history of Nigeria has done it this way, whereby the number two, number three, number four, number five, number six, number seven position are being held by northern Muslim males? I mean, these are the facts there.
Right. So Reno, I'm sure I did have a conversation with some guy in government, and he said, look, I came into the office and I realized that if I was going to probe or carry out a probe on what has happened in the last dispensation with my own parastatal or agency, I'll find out that I'm going to be probing people from certain ethnic groups. And for me to have a holistic probe will require I will go back to 1986. Because every other person who is coming in public service has appointed people from his own. I'm sure that if you go back to former
No,
President
no, no,
Goodluck,
that is not true.
Jonathan,
No, no, no,
if you go back to
that
former
is not
President
true.
Goodluck Jonathan, you probably will also find people say and point fingers. The certain people have come from certain parts of the country who've worked directly with him.
No, no, no. Aghogho, that is not true. And I'm going to give you the facts. I mentioned the head of the executive, the head of the judiciary, the head of the legislature. They are northern Muslim males. Okay, under former President Jonathan, the head of the executive was President Jonathan, a southern Christian male. The head of the judiciary was a northern Muslim female. And then the head of the National Assembly at that time was a northern Christian male. So you can see that's balance. And then the National Security Advisor was a northern Muslim male, a Fulani. So you can see that's balance. The Chief of Defense Staff was a northerner. That's balance. And the same thing with under President Yaradua. I can give you the breakdown under President Yaradua. I can also give you the breakdown under President Obasanjo. This is the first time in Nigeria's history that the head of the executive, the head of the judiciary, the head of the legislature, and the heads of the armed forces are northern Muslim male. If you, I mean, because you said you don't want me giving you the details, I could give you the details because
All right,
I deal in facts.
So that we don't build the tent on this one, I know it's a debate that will continue together with the restructuring debate on the federal character.
No. Can I say this? No. Just before you go, just before you go. It is not a debate. It is a fact. There is a difference between a debate. You can debate and say, okay, well, is Reno a good person or is Reno a bad person? That's a debate. What I just mentioned is not a debate. It is a fact.
All right. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come and deal more on Reno, on his perceptions, and as well as what he thinks about a number of issues on the state of the nation on Pinpoint. Don't go anywhere. 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Aghogho Oboh. We will be right back.
Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Yesterday, I sat on this side of the divide. The popular side, where doubt and sarcasm rank higher than chatter, and yes, it sounded really good. It's where we all love to be. Not on the other seat, where scrutiny is intense and blazing lights pierce through to racing heartbeats and pinpoint questions. Questions which demand frank, blunt, and true responses. Pinpoint with Aghogho Oboh every Saturday,
7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Welcome back on 99.3 Nigeria Info, and it's Pinpoint. I'm Aghogho Oboh with Reno Omokri, former spokesperson to former President Goodluck Jonathan. And we've been having a heated debate and conversation on a number of issues that it is. Reno, hope you're still with us.
I am here.
I hope you'll be with us.
You can't get rid of me that easy.
Definitely, we can't get rid of you that easy. I was on Reno's Twitter page yesterday, and it was on fire. So, Reno, something I think, and don't forget, join the conversation on Facebook. I'm seeing your comments all coming in. At some point, I'll take them in once we engage with the audience, and we would, if you have any questions, also take them in for Reno Omokri. The youth question is big. People look at someone like you, Reno, and they say, you know, you had the opportunity as a young person to work with former President Goodluck Jonathan, be a voice in how it's happened. 2015 elections came. People thought 2019 election, rather, that is going to be the time for the youths to make known their choices, to make known their stand, and to take their position in governance. But it didn't happen exactly that way. More sprinkling here and there of what you consider, you know, the brightest spots in Nigeria's youth picture as the people we see in certain positions in government. 2023 is coming. I've heard some of your comments on what you think about the successor to Muhammadu Buhari and all of that and what you have to say. But I don't see any clear-cut hope in saying that youth probably will take a stand this time and we'll probably have the year of the youth in governance in 2023. Are you optimistic or are you an eternal pessimist?
Well, I'm always optimistic, but here's the thing: the issue is this: if for Nigeria to make progress, this administration and then the party in power, they just can't be around. I'll give you a very good example. Under former President Jonathan, the average age of his ministers, that's the average age above board, was 42 years. As a matter of fact, the Minister for External Affairs, or rather Foreign Affairs, Dr. Nuruddin Mohammed, was appointed when he was 32 years old. Under Muhammadu Buhari, the average age of the ministers is 54 years. As a matter of fact, the Minister of Youth is actually 55 years old. So this administration, this administration is a gerontocratic administration. Muhammadu Buhari is 77 years old. The head of the legislature is 64 years old. The head of the judiciary is also in his mid-60s. So this administration does not have a plan for the youth. You know, these are people that believe that the youth have to die for them to live. I mean, I'll give you an example. Look at the chief of staff that has just been appointed, a man of 75 years old. This was a man who was Minister of Nigeria of Foreign Affairs when I was 9 years old. This man was Minister of Foreign Affairs. So this administration does not have a plan for the youth. You know, this is a very selfish administration. I mean, this is the first time in the history of Muhammadu Buhari's tenure that he has been in the country for over 100 days. And we know why. It's because he can't go anywhere. You know, if he had this opportunity, he would just fly out. But let me say, for 2023, I'll give you an example. In 2019, I brought out my money to enable youth candidates. I brought out my money. If you remember, I sponsored buses for democracy with my money for youths all over the country. I said it didn't matter if you were going to be voting for the APC or for the PDP. I just wanted you to be able to vote. You can Google that. I fed the people who came on my buses. We gave them drinks, and then we took them. But here's the thing. Unless you have youth activity in a way whereby it's devoid of tribe, it's devoid of ethnicity. Because the problem we have in Nigeria, in other nations, when you have political parties, they are built around ideology. But since the coming of the APC, we now have political parties that are built around not ideology, but around race, ethnicity, and religion. And under that kind of environment, you can't have youths being in charge, because for you to...
Right. Go ahead. Sorry, you get back to your point, but I was just trying to point out. So it means that you're disillusioned with the existing political system, whether it's APC or it's PDP.
With the existing political system, I don't think disillusionment is rather the word, because when you talk about disillusionment, it's just like you're not happy with the situation of things and you don't know what to do. Yes, I'm not happy with the situation of things, but I do know what to do. The youth should... I'll give you an example.
Right.
Youth, people who are under the age of 32 in Nigeria form 60% of the population. Now, if they can come together, rally together, and stand behind a candidate, that candidate will win if there's a free and fair election. So what we need to be doing is we need to be building up our capacity of Nigerian youths to jettison ethnicity, to jettison religion, and then come together and then rally behind a political party. I am not seeing that being done, and that's what I'm trying to do. Unfortunately, I do not have a political party, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a network of people, and I'm doing so. Obviously, you know that with some of the things I'm doing on social media.
So you don't have any political ambition?
Well, I have an ambition, and my ambition is to make it to God's kingdom, and that's why you see. Obviously, if you follow me, you see that I go around the world preaching the word of God. Last year, I traveled to 37 countries, taking the message of Freely Sharibu. And while I'm there, I mean, obviously, you saw I met with world leaders. I met with Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I met with Theresa May, his predecessor. I met with Asda of Spain. I went around the world. So basically, my ambition is for the kingdom of God. However, when I see that there are capable political people who have political ambitions, I'm prepared to put my influence behind them. But my only ambition right now is to make it to the kingdom of God.
All right. I know that you have a lot of religious leanings on this one, but just two questions, and then I'm going to open the phone line so people can ask you questions and also contribute to the conversation on Pinpoint with Reno Omokri. First and foremost, I look at what has happened with, I'm sure they say 2020 is hindsight. And you look at former President Goodluck Jonathan and incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari and how they've carried on afterwards. People look at former President Jonathan and say he did save us a lot of hell when he decided to call in Muhammadu Buhari and then concede in 2015. But there's still many unanswered questions, and I'm sure in your own mind you're probably thinking if those questions will ever be answered. Questions around certain corruption allegations around the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan. People have pointed, the fact you point to the recession that happened when Muhammadu Buhari came into office. It's one of the things that happened during former President Goodluck Jonathan, and they came in and did not meet anything in the coffers, and which led us straight into that recession. Is the argument the APC has put forward in saying these are the things that happened then and is justified for the economic doldrums we faced in 2015? Do you think there are some of those questions that deserve answers, or there are some of those questions that you don't think deserve any answer?
They deserve answers, and I'm going to give you factual answers right now. Those were lies. That was propaganda by the APC. Former President Jonathan did not leave an empty treasury. That's a big lie. Former President Jonathan left $5.5 billion in LNG, Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas dividends for Muhammadu Buhari. He also left a foreign reserve of 23.7 billion. He also left in the excess crude account a total of about, I think it was $9 billion. So Muhammadu Buhari, I mean, those were just excuses that they gave. Look, I'll give you an example. Muhammadu Buhari came into power and said, or running on anti-corruption administration. But I'm not talking about Nigeria. I'm not talking about anybody in Nigeria. I'm talking about Transparency International, the only body in the world that is giving the task of adjudicating on who is corrupt and who is not corrupt. And they have said that Nigeria as a country is now more corrupt today than at any time under the Jonathan administration. As a matter of fact, Nigeria made her best improvement in the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index in 2014 when we moved 8 paces forward. We were at 146, and then we moved to 136. But under Muhammadu Buhari, can I finish, please? Under Muhammadu Buhari, we went 12 paces backward. And then why did we go 12 paces backward? I mean, the scams are there. Look at the case of Babachi Lawal. Babachi Lawal was caught with his hand in the cookie jar. What happened? They did a show arraignment in court. After this arraignment, nothing has been heard about the case. Babachi Lawal himself gave an interview and said that he still goes to the presidential villa to meet with Muhammadu Buhari. Aisha Buhari's ADC was caught, and then he was he was accused of looting billions. Aisha Buhari's ADC, till today, nothing has happened to him.
But Reno,
in a leaked memo, can I finish? In a leaked memo, the former Minister of State for Petroleum revealed that $25 billion worth of contracts was given at NNPC without due process. Till today, that case was not investigated. It was swept under the carpet. Muhammad Buhari's son, Yusuf Buhari.
Reno.
I don't. Let's give all this.
I want to stay with the question, Reno, which is
but this is the question.
Which is with the administration, the former President Goodluck Jonathan asked whether there were questions that you thought that deserved answers. You have certain members of that administration who are not in the country who have to answer certain questions, and up till now have not shown up in the country to answer those questions. Take, for example, former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Desiane Alison Madueke, which a lot of people believe she has several questions to answer. But all up until now, the legal process and everything has been stalled because she's still not in the country. You don't think that deserves answers from that administration and from people in the country who want to know exactly what happened with all of that money?
Desiane Alison Madueke is someone I don't hold a brief for. But I'll tell you the facts about Desiane Alison Madueke's case. Desiane Alison Madueke is held in the United Kingdom. Now, in the United Kingdom, the EFCC itself, they had issues where, first and foremost, they told the judge in the United Kingdom they did not want her back, that she should be tried there. And then later they said they wanted her back. So that issue right now is a case of the lack of transparency of the EFCC. But I want to talk about specific facts that have been going on specific facts. In this country, $45 million was found in an apartment at Ikoyi. And then this administration said they were going to have a panel. The head of that panel was the Vice President, Pastor Yemi Osibajo. Now, the panel finished its work 3.5 years ago. Till today, Nigerians don't know who owns that $45 million. If that money was owned by somebody in the previous administration, I'm telling you, it would have taken 2 seconds for them to come out and say, okay, well, it was somebody from that administration. This administration, they wrote a letter to the United States asking for subpoenas to go through American banks, seeking if there were any accounts held by former President Jonathan. The subpoenas were granted. 2 weeks after the subpoenas were granted, they've just kept quiet. Why are they keeping quiet? They should come out and tell Nigerians if they found any accounts linked to former President Jonathan. And I can tell you the truth because we have the legal documents. They could not find one account linked with former President Jonathan in England, in America, or in any country, because former President Jonathan does not have any accounts outside Nigeria. While he was president of Nigeria, his children schooled in Nigeria. Can Muhammad Buhari say so? Muhammad Buhari said that he borrowed money to buy his presidential nomination form. How come his son had an accident with a multi-million naira BMW bike? Where did he get the money from? These are questions that Nigerians should be asking. Look, Reno, according to Transparency International, I know you might be feeling jittery, but allow me to say this. According to Transparency International, this administration is more corrupt than not just than the Goodluck Jonathan administration, than any other administration in the history of this country. So we're asking you, the National Assembly building was built with $6 billion by the Abdulsalami Abubakar administration. How much are they budgeting to renovate it? Not to rebuild it, not to build another one, to renovate it. 37 billion naira.
Okay, Reno, I'm not jittery. I'm looking at the time and I see my lines buzzing. A lot of people want to contribute to the conversation. And, this is Nigeria Info. It's for all of us, and I want people to come ask questions and if they have any comments. So that's like 10 lines already going. We want to talk. All right. So number to call again in case you don't have, I'm sure you're already late to the party, but you can still try. Who knows? You may be lucky. 0700 993 993 993. Again, 0700 993 993 993. I do implore you to keep the conversation civil. If you've got comments or questions, try respect the broadcast codes and ensure that we don't use expletives and all of that. So let's go. Let's see who we have first on the line. Hello. Kindly turn off the device you're listening with so I don't get the feedback. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry about that. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Please kindly turn off the device you're listening with.
All right, good morning.
What's your name and where you calling from?
This is Martins calling from Aghogho.
All right, Martins, go ahead. You have Reno Omokri.
Good morning, Reno.
Good morning, Martins.
It's just a good discussion that is going on here. But I just want to say this because of time. I am aware that you are working for a media broadcasting station, which somehow NBC and all that laws you have to, keep to which. But when people like this come on air, intelligent with facts, like he said, it's not an argument. He's pointing facts. Each time he is asked a question, please, I know you're also playing with time. Allow him to finish. This is not all about any man or any president, but it is about we Nigerians. I made an input in one social media yesterday when they lined up the list of appointees in Nigeria. I said, this is why Nigeria is like this. If we want Nigeria to move forward, we should go beyond nepotism and all that. And the youth also should be able to speak out, not speak, because of biasness or tribal sentiment. It is very, very important. All I know is that God will keep blessing people like Reno and protecting them.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's make the conversation questions short.
Thank you, Martin.
Hello.
Thank you, Martin.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, Aghogho calling from Lekki.
All right, Aghogho, please go ahead.
Yes, your guest has really presented lots of facts here, and I thank him for that. Some people will be biased and say maybe because he was in government before, but the facts have overridden basically the things that we have been seeing and hearing. So the government, this present government, I think my problem with Buhari is that I think he should just relax. He's elderly enough, too much stress. Nigeria is a big country for an elderly man to be ruling of his age. We know his health challenges. I think he has people also who are giving him wrong advice and counsel, like Femi Adesina. Since that day he did that interview in your studio, I've disliked him. And if I see him anywhere, I will challenge him for calling Nigerian names on air. In fact, please, you people should stop playing that jingle again. Anytime I hear it, it gets me upset. Because he came on air and started attacking Nigerians, calling people sounding like a broken record and all that stuff. That is nonsense. So please, these people are people even making Buhari look like somebody who is even incompetent in the advisors, So, and the youths are not given the privilege at all. The old ones are still there. You still keep appointing the old ones to come back. And what about, don't we have young and vibrant people who can take up positions in leadership in Nigeria? But we keep recycling the old set of people. And that will make Nigeria to be going backward and backward. Somebody said, if the old people don't go, how will the young people grow? There's no way it can happen.
All right. Thank you very much for your comments. Okay. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Great. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
My name is Chika. I'm calling from Wadafi.
All right, Chika, go ahead.
Well, let me thank Mr. Reno for the wonderful expose he has been doing since he came on board.
Oh, thank you, Chika.
Then I want to say that there's no country that would last on falsehood. The truth of the matter is that since 2015 that President Buhari has come on board, this nation has been run on falsehood. And there's no way we can survive or we can make progress with it at all. We can choose to be romantic or be fantasized about it. It doesn't matter. But what matters is that the truth must be told. And the truth is that Nigeria, as it runs today, is run under a dysfunctional manner that nobody can actually come out and justify that. There's no way that you can begin to run country like this. The head of executive, legislature, judiciary, every key component of this country today is being headed by not a Muslim. We don't need to paint pictures about it. It's the fact, and we must correct these imbalances. So for me, going forward, what do we need to do? The time is not yet late. We can still make some few progress, but that is if the man is actually willing to take corrections. Thank you once again, Mr. Ronnie.
All right. Thank you very much for your comments. I think I can take in one more call, and then I can quickly get back to you, Reno, on the Leah Sheribu, which is also a big talking point for you. It's unfortunate. Years later, more than 3 years now, she's still in captivity. All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Chief Oboh, God bless you.
How are you? Go ahead, Christopher.
Chief Ronald, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, sir. Are you related to Reno Omokri?
I have no clue who that is.
Okay, good one. Chief Oboh, thank you. Chief Ronald, I know some people, some Nigerians will not be happy with you with this explanation you give to us this morning. Me, I'm one person that I believe in President Buhari. I didn't vote for him, but I said if he win as a president, I will support him. I will give him my little this thing. But the people working with him, I hear somebody say, even if he appoints his own family to run the country, that they are pleased with it. But you can hear the explanation my chief give this morning. And the president said it again, and I want him to keep to his word. Like my chief said about the youth. President Buhari said after 23, when the youth went to visit him. Chief Oboh, you know about this, right?
Yeah, I do.
He said the youth should not bother. But after 2023. So I want to remind the president once more to please keep to his word. And for that investigation they did about the former president in US and London, really, how come they never come up with their findings? When I hear it, I say, wow, it's well, if he did such, let him face the music. But till now, they never come out to tell us their findings. So I want to thank you once more, my chief. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Christopher Wook. And then the final one for Reno Omokri on Pinpoint. Here we go. Hello. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. This is Francis calling from Banana.
All right, Francis. Let's make it quick.
Okay. See, about what Reno is talking about. For me, I am a northern person, but all our Nigerian politicians are the same. Whoever come on board are the same. Nobody that is good. Okay, assuming those people that are calling and supporting Reno, what he said, it is good. But later, when you bring program about pastors, they will be criticizing people who are criticizing pastors, like that the freeze. So I don't like these people who are calling and supporting Reno. What he said, it is good. Everybody in this country are corrupt. Everybody. I don't support anybody.
All right. Thank you very much. Reno, interesting calls. We've had comments from a number of you. Thank you very much, all of you, for keeping it civil and very importantly, Reno. So back to you. Any reaction, but more importantly, we want to hear about Leah Sheribu and all that's happening in the next 1 2 minutes.
I'll talk about Leah, but because we don't have a lot of time, so I'll just say this very quickly. And now, going back to the nepotism of this administration, if you recall, just before coronavirus, they were to borrow about $22.9 billion. And then the Senate had already granted them the permission to borrow it until it was discovered that they had put a lot of the money in the Northwest. The bulk of the money was going to the Northwest, some to the North Central, some to the Southwest, but nothing was going to the Southeast. Now, don't forget that this man had said publicly that those who gave him 5% of the vote cannot expect to be treated the same way as those who gave him 97% of the vote. Is that how a leader should talk? Let me tell you something. Obviously, I'm not Igbo, but you have to respect the Igbo people of Nigeria, because I'll give you a very good example. According to Dr. Robert Newey, No, but that's he's an investigative reporter from New York Times. Alaba Electronics International Market every year does a turnover of $4 billion every year. By the time you add Onitsha and Aba markets, that's an extra $1.5 billion. So that's the $5.5 billion. By the time you add a Ladipo spare parts market, that's another $1.5 billion. You're looking at a total of about $7 billion.
Right.
Now, the government of Nigeria cannot even raise $7 billion without oil. Now, you have a people who are so commercial, who are so intelligent, and who can help the economy of this country, and yet you are not investing in them.
Plenty of
You think about this.
Plenty of food for thought, Reno, but we're out of time. How time flies when you're having a great discussion. But final thoughts on Leah Sharibu?
Well, I just hope that Leah is going to be found soon. I've been going around the world with my own money. This administration, they tried to spare me. They raised up a number of people to tell lies that I've collected monies from foundations. And I thank God when I was with Boris Johnson, I made a public boast. I said, if anybody in the whole world, or if any church or any foundation has given me a penny, and let them come out or forever remain silent. I've been doing this with my own money. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you know I went to Mount Everest at very great risk to my life because I wanted to, it was a publicity stunt to draw attention to Leah Sharibu. And a week from now, next week Saturday, God spare my life, I will be doing seminars. I'm going to be doing seminars every week. And so I'm telling Nigerians, they can go on my social media platforms, Reno Omokri on Twitter, and then Reno Omokri on Facebook, Reno Omokri on IG. And so I'm going to be giving a seminar. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. I wanted the Chief Operating Officer of the Mind of Christ Christian Center to say something. But these seminars, just go on my social media platforms, and then you're going to see the link. So I'm going to be giving a weekly seminar for the rest of this year. And then on my final thoughts, Boko Haram, if you can hear me, I've read the Quran. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not have done what you did. If you recall, when the Meccans were trying to destroy Islam in among the Quraysh tribe in Mecca, it was a Christian king in Ethiopia, the Negus, who gave asylum to the Mujahideen. And then they came there, and that's how Islam was saved. Christians have been very good to you. But look at now what you're doing to a Christian child. You need to release this girl. I've been going around the world. I speak to her mother. This girl is going through a lot. I'm begging you, Boko Haram, release her. Let her go. I can't say anymore, right? God bless you. Thank you.
Really emotional. I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much, Reno Omokri. It's been great speaking with you on Pinpoint. And you can do follow Reno on Twitter, and then we can have a conversation. Thank you very much, Reno Omokri.
God bless you.
All right, so that's it on Pinpoint. I hope you did enjoy the conversation. We will be back again next week with another interview with great quotes as well as great conversations with you. Do have yourself a great weekend. Oyeche Kumakama is up next. Please don't go anywhere.